Part 28. The Lord of Reincarnation. Author, Wen Xiaogong. Chapter 273. It's about to start. In Dreamland. Mercury watched the imprint of Crow climb all the way, even surpassed the pocket watch which was the most advanced in the second step, and began to charge towards the first step. His hands were sweating with excitement. Although he is not a crow, it does not prevent him from pinning his hopes on the crow. On the ladder of dreams. Fang Xian felt strenuous for the first time. He stepped up a flight of stairs suddenly, feeling a huge boulder pressing on top of his head, and his joints creaked. There is still a distance from the top. Here, he could already see three clear figures in front of him. You can also look at the top of the dream staircase, that group of light that looks like a white sun. However, it is difficult to achieve. Another strange king has come. Ahead, an old voice came, "I am Mr. Wisdom, let me guess your identity, could it be an old friend we know? Well, you are the king of the warrior tower, could it be the prince of the Narnia's empire? Or the leader of the pioneering corps of the new world?" Fang Xian didn't answer. He just took a few breaths, and after his body got used to it, he climbed up another step. When he got here, he was only one level away from Mr. Wisdom, and 3 levels away from the dancer. The crafter was at the front of the line, only 10 steps away from the top. It seemed that he was within reach, but he was not take half a step. Give up, I have studied it, and the selection mechanism of Dream Township is a paradox. Mr. Wisdom didn't climb, but stood there leisurely, and Fang Xian said, "If you want to climb to the top, you generally need to open the door of silver, and even touch the strength of gold. But we are already the most peak golden kings, and here we are only the transcendents who are at most equivalent to the third step, and there is still a big difference, unless those existences above the top of the tower come over. Only then will it be possible to become the owner of the dreamland. But, Dreamland also excludes the existence above the top of the tower, so this is a paradox. Give up?" Mr. Wisdom seemed to remind me kindly. Fang Xian sneered in his heart. He felt a mysterious spiritual power and was trying to destroy his fighting spirit. If there is no other way, what are you doing climbing? And, even if you don't become the owner of Dreamland, every level of authority will increase, and the benefits will be great. This old bastard. Thinking of this, Fang Xian roared and punched Wisdom. Blood manipulation. This talent can be used not only on the enemy, but also on oneself, similar to some explosive skills such as burning blood. Combined with Man of Steel, Mr. Wisdom's expression changes one after another. He didn't even think about it, he took a step back. His hands were like tiger claws, ready to take Fang Xian's blow hard, implying the power of counterattack. This is tiger fighting technique? Are you going to defeat me with the martial arts I created? Fang Xian complained secretly in his heart, and didn't bother to care where the other party got his fighting skills. With a shake of his arm, he swung away the tiger claws of Wisdom, and without giving him a chance to recite the spell, he punched Wisdom's chest. Okay. His expression changed, and he didn't feel like he hit a human body, but as if he hit a fish or a snake, and a layer of scales removed most of the attack. Some mages or wizards, after reaching a high level, do have the habit of transforming themselves. Sometimes, their physical fitness alone can be compared to powerful fighters. At this time, Wisdom had already spit out 2 syllables. Hoo-hoo. The breeze was turbulent, as if it had turned into a rope, binding Fang Xian. Thorns and vines grew rapidly, took root under his feet, and continuously wound around his thighs. In a blink of an eye, Fang Xian seemed to have turned into a treant, entwined by endless vines. If his body was not strong enough, his bones might have been strangled. When all this happened, the dancers and craftsmen just watched indifferently, neither intending to stop nor join in. "You pissed me off." Fang Xian roared angrily, and a layer of jet black appeared on his body. This layer of color continued to spread, even corroding the vines on his body. Boom! As he struggled, all the vines exploded violently, and the fragments flew, some of which tore through the cloak of wisdom, revealing the dark and fine scales underneath. A few scales shattered, revealing traces of blood. It was you who made the first move. I was just checking whether you are qualified to join us at the beginning. Wisdom took a step back and said with a smile, with mysterious power in his voice, trying to break Fang Xian's fighting spirit. Get out! Fang Xian raised his right hand, aiming at Wisdom. In an instant, Wisdom's expression changed drastically. Looking at his wound, blood spewed out like money. Suddenly, another mass of blood coagulated and collapsed inward, carrying a dangerous aura. Boom! Blood explosion technique. A lot of blood exploded, but a layer of shadow appeared on the surface of Wisdom's body, wriggling continuously, and the body was not broken in two, but a big hole appeared in the waist. Go down! But at this time, Fang Xian had already climbed up a step again, raised his foot, and kicked Wisdom on the back. Old Mr. Wisdom let out a scream, was kicked down the stairs, and disappeared in mid-air. He's out? Hee, it's the first time I've seen that old bastard being raped so badly. Aren't you a fighter? Dancer spoke, and it was a female voice that was as pleasant as a silver bell. I never admitted it. Fang Xian spoke in a low voice, slowly adapting to the heavy pressure, and suddenly stepped up another step. The body of the dancer was tense, as if he was considering whether to make a move. Fang Xian ignored her and continued to step on a new level. He overtook the dancer, took a few steps forward, and finally stopped when he barely touched the back of the crafter. Beep! In the void, sparks appeared around his body, as if they were engaged in a fierce confrontation. Is this my limit? Fang Xian glanced at the white sun at the top, feeling a little regretful. However, I have confirmed one thing: this place is indeed inherited by people, but the conditions are relatively harsh. At least the 4th rank of De Luo is required. When I am promoted to the 4th step, maybe I can try again. He glanced and remained silent, as if he only had eyes for the peak craftsman, and took the initiative to take a step back. Boom! His figure exploded and disappeared completely. What a terrible guy. I feel like he seems to have reservations. The dancer looked at the direction where Fang Xian disappeared, with a hint of a smile in his eyes, and looked at the craftsman. Aren't you worried? The craftsman didn't speak, just looked up at the top. White light surged down, covering everything. This battle for the secret realm is over. The Lord of Reincarnation. Author, Wen Xiaogong. Chapter 274. In the Dreamland. Mr. Quicksilver looked at the 4 marks on the first step and remained silent. The secret realm has been closed, and the positions of all imprints have been stabilized. And in the first level, the 3 imprints that have remained unchanged for thousands of years have undergone obvious changes, and the crow imprint is added. It is second only to craftsman, and above dancer and wisdom. Second. Next to it, a mysterious man murmured, just once the secret realm was opened, I rushed from the bottom to the 2nd place. In reality, another peak king was pulled into the dreamland. Mercury also agrees with this judgment. In the secret realm, there is a completely demon-free environment, and extraordinary people who enter the 3rd step and below will directly become ordinary people. Only Silver of Order, because it has formed a stable internal circulation system in the body, can barely struggle, but most of them have to be weakened a lot, and become comparable to the superhumans of the 1st and 2nd steps. Was broken into ceramic and bronze. Golden King is a bit stronger, but most of them are still hovering around ancient copper. Only the most peak among them, who have mastered a lot of general purpose knowledge, can barely raise their strength to the 3rd step, the level of quenched black iron. The situation of the crow belongs to this kind of gangster. At this time, Fang Xian was also teleported to Dreamland Square. "He's the Raven." Somebody recognized Fang Xian and yelled. Immediately, a blank area appeared around him, and no transcendent dared to stand side by side with him. Fang Xian didn't care about these, just communicated with Baiyuzhu, and silently felt the increase in authority. At this time, his imprint received a message, which was actually from Wisdom: "Unfamiliar friends, we may have a chance to cooperate. Old bastard, if you say one more word to him, you may fall into a trap." Fang Xian rolled his eyes and didn't bother to reply. Starting with this message, a large number of messages began to emerge. Most of them are compliments and congratulations. "I want to make a good impression on this new boss." This made Fang Xian have to use the newly acquired permissions to delete in batches, and block some spam messages, only to feel a lot cleaner. Well, the authority has been upgraded to the second place. I can get a quota for attracting people from the outside world every 7 days, open a temporary meeting room, instantly browse all the booth information in Dreamland, the right to automatically filter, and delete the number. Expelling a least privileged member from Dreamland and denying him access forever? Fang Xian was speechless. This setting reminded him of the administrator of a certain group in his previous life. Fortunately, those 3 kings didn't know my secret back then, otherwise they would have deleted me, and I would have lost this opportunity. Now that my authority has increased, they can't kick me, but I have nothing to do with them, unless, becoming the Silver of Order of the 4th step, maybe you can try to completely control this place. Dear Mr. Crow, thank you for your help this time. Among the crowd, the Golden Knight came out and saluted respectfully. "If you need any help in the Nanias Empire, please contact me. Although I am not strong enough, I can provide some small strength." The Tower of the Knights was originally a feature of the Narnia's Empire, so he didn't reveal anything. "I will." Fang Xian nodded reservedly, but rolled his eyes in his heart. "Don't think too highly of me, I'm black iron in my secret realm, and it's just black iron in the real world." However, he estimated that even if he admits it now, no one will believe it. Therefore, after paying tribute to a few acquaintances, he turned into an illusion and left the dreamland. Roland Manor. Before dawn. In the hall, there was a mess of cups and plates. Some of the nobles who had a night of carnival were resting on the sofa, some had already made an appointment and entered the garden or a specially prepared guest room, and some were yawning and preparing to return in a carriage. The Andres were in low energy and went to the master bedroom to rest after apologizing. Pete is in good spirits, and is still entertaining several guests, sharing the cigars sent from the New World. Fang Xian scanned the scene. The expression in his eyes gradually became calm and indifferent. He returned to the room, opened the desk chair, pulled out a piece of letter paper, and began to write a letter with a pen saturated with ink. "To my dearest people, I'm sorry, I've been hiding it from you. In fact, my dream is to be a traveler. I want to go to the Raphael Tower of the Silver Eagle Federation to taste the local style champagne, and I also want to go to Narnia, the throne hall of the Sri Lanka Empire, reminiscing about the iron-blooded speech of the conquering emperor, and wanting to set foot on a long-distance ship to the New World to be an explorer. Parting is always sad, so please forgive me for leaving without saying goodbye. Daniel Roland." With Daniel's memory, his handwriting is exactly the same as the original owner. When all this was done, he placed the letter under the inkwell in the very center of the table. Immediately, Fang Xian picked up a suitcase, turned it out of the window, and left Roland Manor, taking advantage of the last sliver of darkness before the dawn. Early morning. Worcestershire, Deland. In a huge restaurant with gorgeous decoration. Here's to our successful takeover. 2 well-dressed, handsome noblemen with silver hair were having breakfast. A nobleman raised his glass and said, "After returning to the family this time, the family will definitely reward us heavily." Dick, Maybe the job you have always wanted will be easily obtained. Cheers. Dick Miller, who was sitting across from him, was in his 20s, frowning, as if he was thinking about something, a little absent-minded. This attitude was immediately sensed by the companion on the opposite side, and he asked with concern, "What's wrong with you? You don't look well, do you want to see a doctor?" "No, I'm just overwhelmed by the news." Dick laughed dryly and pointed to a newspaper on the table. It was written in a prominent headline: "Gourmet commits another crime. Who will stop the scourge of ghouls? Can you stop mentioning those disgusting things while eating?" The person opposite was eating strawberries, and when he saw the bright red color in his hand, he felt nauseated. "Feel sorry." Dick Miller quickly apologized, but he said silently in his heart, "You have no idea how sensational the high-level members of the mysterious world were last night." However, the existence of Dreamland is a secret even to most mystics. There is no doubt that he is also a member of Dreamland, and has personally experienced the shock of last night. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lord of Reincarnation. Author, Wen Xiaogong. Chapter 275. Deland City. Fang Xian, who was wearing a blue and white shirt, black trousers, and carrying a suitcase into the urban area, felt something was wrong. The number of sheriffs patrolling the streets has obviously increased, scanning the unfamiliar faces in the crowd with vigilant and dangerous eyes. He had already become a target. Immediately, two sheriffs in uniform stepped forward and stopped in front of him. "For inspection, please show your ID card. I forgot to go to the black market to get a set of identification. If I'm arrested like this, the matter of me running away from home may become a big joke." Fang Xian thought about something speechlessly, and took out a badge from his pocket. This is the proof of the students of the Mystery Academy, and he hadn't had time to return it back then. If this doesn't work, take out your diploma. Anyway, it is not a wise choice to refuse inspection in public, or to injure the magistrate and escape. Well, I still need a disguise mask. Fang Xian thought wildly in silence. The local black market, I don't know if these are sold. It turned out to be a student of the Mystery Academy. One sheriff's expression softened, while the other's expression was a little more complicated. In ancient times, the mysterious power was only mastered by the nobles, and the common people could only be in awe. But now, because of the active diffusion of the Tower of Wisdom and Sage, the mysterious power has spread to the common people, but the long gap cannot be dissipated in a short time. There are even some conservative people who regard the mystic as a monster. What happened? Fang Xian asked casually. A group of ghouls who call themselves gourmets have wandered around the city. Sorry, because of your identity as a mysterious person, you still need to be checked. The peace officer with a soft expression bowed. Signal the companion to call someone immediately. Fang Xian chatted with him for a few words before he learned that a group of ghouls had been wandering around Worcestershire recently and had committed a large number of serious crimes in Deland City. Therefore, the public security station mobilized a large number of manpower to go to the streets to conduct investigations. Not long after, the sheriff came over with another person. Special subjects? Fang Xian narrowed his eyes slightly. The other party's temperament reminded him of the two agents who went to the manor last time. "Hello, young student. My name is Jax. I also graduated from the Mystery Academy. I can be considered your senior." Jax was about 30 years old, with blonde curly hair, and he smiled brightly. "I'm sorry, please stretch out your hand, this is a check that all mystics must do." He took out a small bottle and shook the liquid inside. "Bloodthirsty tincture, you know its effect. If it is touched by the skin of a ghoul, it will change color." Fang Xian nodded, stretched out the back of his hand, and let Jax drip a drop of bloodthirsty tincture on it. The transparent color melted away without any change. "Sorry for disturbing you." Seeing this, the smile on Jax's face became wider. "I haven't asked for your name yet." "Call me Odwin." Fang Xian smiled back. "I'm on a graduation trip, and I didn't expect to encounter such a thing." "Yeah, no one wants to. Graduation is wonderful, but for future career planning, I suggest that you better not join the special department. Although the salary is good, the task is too heavy. Look at my dark circles." Jax complained, then suddenly asked, "Want to do a part-time job during the holidays?" Students who can go on a graduation trip must at least have the level of Ancient Bronze, which is at the same level as him. "Senior wants to hire me? I don't have this idea at the moment." Fang Xian looked around. "Is there any recommended hotel? And, I want to go to the local Mystic Bazaar, which is more hidden. Laurel Hotel is very nice." Jax showed a smile that any man could understand. "I strongly recommend. As for the Mystics Market, it has recently been raided and seized, because it is suspected of containing ghouls and other dark creatures. It has become very depressed. You're going to be disappointed." "Really?" Fang Xian patted his head, feeling that he had forgotten the impact of the chain reaction. "However, I can recommend you to go to a private party, as an apology for the inconvenience this time." Jax seemed very enthusiastic, and handed over a business card. "On Wednesday or Thursday night, go to this address, as I introduced it, can be disguised in advance. Then, goodbye." He waved his hand and continued patrolling with the two sheriffs. Fang Xian took the business card and glanced at it. There is no name on it, just an address. Number 44 Phoenix Street. Fang Xian didn't have any destination when he came out this time. He just walked around at will, traveled the continent, collected tribulation power, and searched for the inheritance of the Warlock's Tower along the way. In addition, it is waiting for the transaction in Dreamland. After making these two preparations, he still has a little confidence that he can get the inheritance clue. Thinking silently, Fang Xian came to the Laurel Hotel. "Hello, sir, is it accommodation or other services?" Behind the counter stood a receptionist dressed in a black and white maid outfit, with a profound career line, and it was thrilling when he bowed down. "Get me a room," Jax said. Fang Xian said in a deep voice. It turned out to be the guest introduced by Mr. Jax. The girl smiled sweetly, and without asking to see her ID, she quickly checked in for Fang Xian and handed him a key. "Turn left on the second floor to the third room. Do you need special service?" "I do not need it, thank you." Fang Xian had a cold face, feeling as if he had come to the wrong place. "But when I came to the room and opened it, I found that it was well furnished and very clean. Especially for dinner, the New World colonial-style meal prepared by the chef is very suitable for Fang Xian's appetite." After dinner and a quick shower, Fang Xian put on loose clothes and walked out of the hotel, as if he wanted to take a walk. Today happened to be the time Jax said, so he walked slowly to number 44, Phoenix Street. As far as the eye can see, it is a huge two-story Western-style building. Through the iron fence covered with vines, you can see the colorful garden and the exotic red brick house. Fang Xian stepped forward and pulled the doorbell. Not long after, a middle-aged man with the appearance of a housekeeper came to the door. "May I ask who you are?" He looked at Fang Xian, who had already put on a pitch-black mask, with a trace of vigilance in his eyes. "Come here for the name, the person who attends the party." Fang Xian showed the business card in his hand with a low voice. It turned out to be a guest. The butler smiled and opened the door, and let Fang Xian in easily. "Really?" Fang Xian followed behind the butler, and he knew it in his heart. It seems that the threshold for this party is relatively low, and the access is relatively loose. Jax is just a solicitor? He didn't say Jax's name at first because he didn't want to expose himself. If it is not possible, only use his name to enter. It now appears that this decision was correct. Fang Xian guessed maliciously that maybe Jax was a solicitor, and if he reported his name to make a transaction, he would probably get a commission. The Lord of Reincarnation. Author, Wen Xiaogong. Chapter 276. There are already many people in the lobby of the apartment. In other words, a large number of mystics and occult enthusiasts. Most of them covered their bodies and wore masks, like gentlemen and ladies attending a masquerade ball. Fang Xian, wearing a mask, blended into it without any sense of disobedience. He picked up a glass of red wine and casually approached a chatting salon. Those damned, disgusting ghouls, really disrupted the market here, and left me with a large backlog of moonlight tincture, which can now be sold at full price. The person who spoke was obese, probably a black market dealer, looking at the mysterious people expectantly. Unfortunately, no one responded. I don't know why those disgusting guys who should go to hell came to the city. What's going on with the kingdom's special department? Is there nothing you can do about it? Another masked man was also dissatisfied. They only know to go to the streets and search for unregistered extraordinary one by one. As a result, several of my friends have gone to jail and have to find lawyers to release them on bail. This is another big expense. Gentlemen, I have a piece of information here that I can give to you for free. At this moment, a lady wearing a red mask chuckled lightly. Her voice was not high, but it immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding mysterious people. After all, most of them have keen hearing. Ma'am, please tell me. A man with a golden mask approached and couldn't help saying, as the host of this party, if your information is valuable, I am willing to pay you accordingly. Knowledge must be rewarded. This is the motto of the Tower of Wisdom sages. Thank you for your generosity, sir. The lady in the red mask first held up her skirt and saluted, then looked around and said in a deep voice, a large number of ghouls appeared and committed crimes like crazy. This reminds me of a ritual. A ceremony? Someone murmured in confusion. Yes, it's normal that you don't know, this is what happened in the Narnia's empire recently. A group of enforcers attacked a secret association that worshipped ghouls, and seized a batch of tomes, among which there was a description of the ceremony. It was a preparation for the birth of the king of ghouls, a part of the ceremony. At the beginning, a large number of ghouls need to be transformed, and a hunting area is selected to start hunting on a large scale. When humans are not satisfied, the ghouls will start to eat each other and eat themselves. The one who survives to the end will be the born king of ghouls. The name of the ceremony is, the King's Feast, the lady said in one breath. His king. Is it a ceremony to open the Golden Gate? The mysterious people around were startled and fidgeted a little. Maybe we have to leave this area immediately, the farther the better? Actually, I don't think there is any need to worry, because from the perspective of scope, this ceremony is much simpler, and it is probably only used to open the door of silver, and, the secret information that we don't know, probably the official has already known news. There are strong people waiting for the black hand behind the scenes to appear. The lady comforted at last. Thank you, ma'am, but this is no comfort to me, and I am going to move immediately. A man got up and quickly left the venue. Several masked people also couldn't sit still, got up and left. The local owner of the golden mask looked at this scene, seemed a little silent, and then looked at the lady. The information you gave is very valuable, and I will reward you accordingly. Fang Xian was on the side, feeling that the master was probably very depressed. After all, a good party suddenly loses a few participants, all of whom are potential guests. And, this voice is a little familiar. The woman, from the Empire of Narnia, or the mystic. It can't be such a coincidence, can it? Fang Xian looked carefully at the woman in the red mask, and found that she was indeed somewhat similar to Yirui, who was haunted by nightmares and met on the train that day. A kind of intuition told him that this is Yirui herself. With this character, it's no wonder she always runs into bad things in the occult. Fang Xian shook his head and looked at the local host. The man with the golden mask began to host the party. In general, it was the same as the other gatherings he experienced. Participants took turns to come forward, report what they needed or sell something. Oftentimes, you don't get what you want. After all, the world is too big, and there are relatively few mystics. Moreover, due to wariness, lack of strong notaries, etc., they are often unable to communicate with each other. At this time, we can see the importance of Dreamland. The turnover rate here is much lower than that of Dreamland. When it was Fang Xian's turn, he stepped forward directly and said in a deep voice, "I need a set of identity certificates, the kind that can pass the inspection of the sheriff. Besides, I also need magical items or spells that can modify the appearance. The reward, if so, it can be Kingfisher, or other equivalent mystic knowledge." As soon as these two demands came out, Fang Xian suddenly felt that everyone's eyes on him changed slightly. After all, fake identities and fake faces, no matter how you look at it, are only necessary for mysterious people who have done bad things and run away in disguise. In their minds, they are probably the criminals among the mysterious people. However, it doesn't matter to Fang Xian. After all, no one knows his identity. Even for Jax, he only reported a false name, and when it is important to track down the ghoul case, the other party probably won't chase after him. And 10,000 steps back, even if Jax chased after him, and even found out the identity of Daniel Roland, so what? Does the special department still care about the little guy from the noble family? Daniel's record is very clean. Come to this party, I didn't say Jax's name. As long as you get another false identity, you can theoretically become another person. In the silence, the owner of the golden mask smiled. A reasonable identity, I can do it. The price is 100 gold fisher. As for the magical items and abilities that can change the appearance, I don't have that kind of precious thing. They're snapped up as soon as they come out, and there's almost no stock left. The mysterious people around nodded slightly, as if they agreed with this statement very much. Make a deal. Fang Xian nodded. He still has a little gold fisher on him, and it was Andre's generous compensation to Daniel. Especially after knowing that Daniel purchased horses and hunting equipment out of his own pocket, Andre, who received a large sum of money, seemed eager to use money to prove his ability and lack of care. Then, you can go to the backyard with my servant to trade, but let me declare in advance that we need to conduct a bloodthirsty tincture test first. The owner of the golden mask said seriously, I don't want to be an accomplice of those disgusting things. A very reasonable request, and I agree. Fang Xian agreed without hesitation. He was indeed not afraid of this kind of inspection. The Lord of Reincarnation. Author, Wen Xiaogong. Chapter 277. After accepting the inspection, Fang Xian, who paid 100 gold fisher and got a dark yellow craft paper bag, returned to the hall, only to find that the party had come to an end. It seems that the news given by the woman suspected of being Yirui was a little shocking, and it seems to be due to other reasons. In short, in this private gathering, the interest of many participants was generally not high, and there were very few transactions. Fang Xian looked at the resplendent halls around him, and the buffet-style meals and drinks were served, and began to speculate a little amusingly whether the Mr. Golden Mask would lose money. Then, this meeting is over. Mr. Golden Mask announced the end of the banquet and opened up multiple passages for different gentlemen and ladies to exit. Fang Xian chose a passage at random, walked out of house number 44 through the side door, thinking about something secretly. The original plan was to travel to the Narnia's empire after obtaining a false identity. After all, the noble heritage there is the oldest and the longest, and there are more families with a complete warlock's tower, but now it seems that, might as well wait in Teresa. Alchemists need robbery to practice. In this kind of high energy level world, the disaster caused by a little turbulence, the quality of the robbery is much higher than that of the ordinary world. Of course, Fang Xian, who has a different understanding of the way of catastrophe, does not intend to take the initiative to create catastrophe, but it does not mean that he will not use a wave of catastrophe. And, you can try to save. In other words, it is also a disaster to turn me into those ghouls' doom. Ghouls, interesting, this is not only a race of magical creatures, but also a profession, which shows that humans can actively transform into ghouls through certain rituals. Recalling the occult knowledge that Daniel had learned when he was studying at the Mystery Academy, Fang Xian gradually had an understanding of ghouls. Among humans, this extraordinary path is known as the Tower of Gluttony. Its first step is the eating seed, a half-human, half-ghoul existence, or in other words, most of the time it is still human, only when it sees fresh human flesh and blood, it will become crazy and full of blood. Aggression and cravings to eat. It's like a despicable semi-finished product, after all it's just despicable pottery. Second step. It is the ghoul, which can transform between human form and ghoul form. The transformed ghoul has sharp claws, stronger strength than ordinary people, and terrifying bite and digestion abilities. The third step is called gluttony. The specific ability is unknown, but it should awaken some spell-like abilities and become very difficult to deal with. As for the silver and gold stage, that is not something a student can touch. However, judging from the information Yirui gave today, the fifth step will probably be called the King of Gluttony or King of Ghouls. Overall, it is a very powerful path, taking into account both physique and spells, and has a strong recovery ability. There are almost no weaknesses, except that it is too disgusting. Fang Xian turned around a street, and suddenly a tall woman walked up to him. Seeing him, the other party also seemed to be startled, and the palm of his hand still maintained the movement of taking off the mask. It really is Yirui. Fang Xian nodded secretly. Speaking of it, although he had a fair deal with the other party last time, the benefits of Dreamland are too great. On a real assessment, I probably owe her a little more, and the other party seems to have some contacts in the Narnia Empire. This is very helpful for him to go there to find the inheritance of the Warlock's Tower. Thinking of this, Fang Xian took off his mask, ready to say hello to Ms. Yirui. It's you. When Yirui saw Fang Xian's real face under the mask, a smile appeared on her face, but in an instant, she became terrified. She's afraid of me. No. It's something behind me. Danger premonition warning. Fang Xian rolled to the side without thinking. Stab it. The next moment, a ferocious black claw slashed across the position where he was standing just now. Okay. A somewhat doubtful voice sounded, but he didn't hesitate to stop, passing Fang Xian's original position, and pounced on Yirui. The opponent's target, from the beginning to the end, was Yirui, a woman. Yirui's expression at this time was very dazed, motionless, like a sculpture. A ferocious smile appeared on the assailant's face, as if he had seen the scene of sharp claws cutting open the body, blood and internal organs flowing horizontally. Hey! But a palm protruded from nowhere, firmly grasped his paw, and a young and dissatisfied voice sounded, "Dare to do something directly on the street, don't you want to be afraid of the magistrate?" Boom! The next moment, a leather boot stepped on the assailant's chest with a violent force. The attacker flew out like a cannonball, rolled a few times on the ground, and stood up again, seemingly very strong. At the same time, Fang Xian also saw clearly the face of the attacker. Wearing a black windbreaker, with a pale face and slender fingers. Finger. Fang Xian narrowed his eyes slightly, and used the ability of soul out of body. However, the soul did not leave the body, but with the help of this talent, it gained the vision of the spirit body. In the spiritual vision, the surrounding scenery quickly faded into a black and white world. The body of the pale-skinned man on the opposite side instantly became hazy, with protruding bones in the mouth, sharp fangs, and dripping saliva. His slender fingers also twisted and deformed, turning into a pair of ferocious claws. "Wake up!" Fang Xian pushed Yirui, who was beside her. "What?" The girl seemed to wake up from some kind of dream just now, looked at the ghoul opposite, and screamed, "Ghoul, why did you attack me?" This question. Fang Xian rolled his eyes inwardly. "Girl, you just exposed others at the party. If I were a ghoul and happened to be at the party, I would attack you to vent my anger too." Can you see me?" From the ghoul opposite, came a somewhat hoarse voice. The body of a ghoul, the power of illusion, the third-tier gluttony. The corners of Fang Xian's mouth curled up slightly, knowing what kind of magic-like ability the gluttony on the third level possessed, it was creating hallucinations. It has to be said that this is a good skill for trapping prey. Especially in combination with the ugly body of a ghoul. Maybe those ignorant girls thought they had met their own Prince Charming the moment before they were eaten. "Stranger, it's none of your business, leave now, I can let you go." The gluttony on the opposite side continued to speak. "He, you attacked me just now, you treated me as a passerby, and killed me casually when you stood in front of the target, right?" Fang Xian sneered. "Now you think I'm troublesome, so you want me to go. Do you think I have no temper?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lord of Reincarnation. Author, Wen Xiaogong. Chapter 278. Stubborn guy, I will taste your pancreas carefully later. The ferocious mouth of the gluttony opened, licking the air with its scarlet tongue. Every gluttony is also a picky gourmet, but I believe your taste must be very good. As soon as the words fell, his whole body exploded into a cloud of black mist. What kind of ability is this? Yirui beside him exclaimed. It's not the ability, but we've been pulled into the illusion again. Fang Xian's face was serious, and he opened his spiritual vision, but found that he had lost the trace of the opposite ghoul. Deeper illusion invisibility? As he thought lightly, his own body gradually became illusory. Invisible skin. At the same time, Fang Xian stroked his forehead, spreading his perception. Danger premonition. Suddenly, he felt a tingling pain between his brows. Pursuing this kind of induction, Fang Xian looked at a corner of a black and white world, where a shadow seemed to be twisting and wriggling, spilling out breath and spreading its tentacles. This is like a spider's silk, illusory and almost weightless, but it is gradually increasing the mental burden of the two prey. Yirui, who was next to her, groaned and fell down. This is the mental overwhelm that causes the body to fail to support. It belongs to the suppression of mystery. Yirui, who fell to the ground, closed her eyes tightly, unconscious, and shadows began to spread from her body. This woman seemed to be overwhelmed, not only passed out, but her own mysterious power began to run wild, out of control, trying to alienate her into a monster. After all, it's just a despicable Tao, being affected by quenched black iron. Is it going to go crazy and out of control? Fang Xian was almost speechless. A layer of blood surged around like a tide, preventing some kind of influence in the void. So that Yirui's situation stabilized. At the same time, he stretched out his right hand in the direction of the shadow. Blood manipulation. Even ghouls are magical creatures with blood. Well. A muffled grunt came, and the gluttony appeared from the shadows in astonishment. Fang Xian charged forward, clenched his fist with his right hand, his skin glowed like steel, and punched him hard. Originally, he wanted to give the opponent a blood explosion technique, but the blood used to make this kind of bomb needs to be fully controlled by him. At this time, although Fang Xian could manipulate the blood in the ghoul's body to speed up, stagnate, or flow backwards, it was only for a few seconds. If you want to control it completely, you still have to draw the blood away from the body. But, wait until I become Silver of Order or King of Gold, or can I directly take away the control of the blood in the enemy's body? Let the enemies self-destruct one by one? But it can only deal with low-level mystics. In a flash of thought, Fang Xian felt that his fist had hit someone's body heavily. Puff! The gluttony looked a little stunned, and flew upside down, with a large piece of his chest sunken. But it was obviously very tenacious. After rolling a few times on the ground, it got up, rubbing its sharp claws with both hands, making harsh sounds. Whoosh! Fang Xian came to it at a faster speed than before. Burning blood secret method. He punched hard again, hitting the glutton's original wound. Click! There was an ear-piercing sound of bone cracking. No matter how strong the opponent's physique was, this time he was still spitting out blood, which was horrible. Burst! Fang Xian collected the blood beads flying all over the sky, fused them continuously in the palm of his right hand, turned them into a blood bomb, and threw them directly beside the glutton. Boom! The light of the explosion swallowed the stunned face of the glutton. This loud noise also alarmed everyone nearby. A large number of glass windows shattered, and thick flames and black smoke shot straight into the sky. If the battle just now was not due to the remote location, it would not attract much attention. Now, even a fool would know something big happened. No loot either. Fang Xian looked at the charred body of the glutton that was blown to pieces in the dark pit, shook his head, picked up Yirui, and quickly left the battlefield. He would never want to meet his newfound friend Jax under these circumstances. It was less than a minute after Fang Xian left. A large number of security officers with gloomy faces came and saw the battlefield. Damn it, it's a ghoul, and this explosion, notify the special department immediately. Jax showed his ID and entered the cordon with a frown. The burnt smell was mixed with the unique smell of ghouls. They seemed to have a chemical reaction with each other, and the smell became more pungent. Even the special perfume couldn't cover it up, making him want to retch. He approached the explosion circle and saw that a colleague had put a charred arm into an evidence bag. Red. It's Chief Jax. Reed stood up and saluted lazily. Report, it is confirmed that the scene is a third-stage ghoul. It seems to have chosen the wrong hunting target and kicked the iron plate. Judging from the traces at the scene, it's a bit strange. Reed's partner Tabor was wearing colored contact lenses to cover up the different colors of the pupils. It should be 2 men and a lady, but there are too many traces, a bit like the mystical bomb made by the alchemist. I also checked traces of the abilities of other different systems. Well, I see. In front of the 2 agents, Jax acted very calmly. It should be what Reed guessed, but you can confirm it. I remember that there is a stronghold of a private party nearby, and several mysterious people are hidden. You can ask about it. At this time, it is not realistic to want to keep the private party nearby. Jax gave the order straight away. Perhaps, this ghoul is also a member of the party? Reed rubbed his chin, and, mysterious people meet in private and trade items, which must violate the kingdom's tax rate law. It must be banned. Yes, but at present, we still mainly deal with ghouls. Jax covered his forehead. The gluttony on the 3rd level is not something you can find casually. It is also a big blow to that organization, but this kind of thing happened. The impact is too great, and the higher UPS will definitely order to solve the case on a regular basis. Maybe they will send us more people. I remember that there are several descendants of great nobles staying in the city. The power around them seems to be quite good and can be borrowed. At that time, we will wipe out this wave of gourmets in one fell swoop and let them go to prison, go to the laboratory, go to the guillotine to eat shit. There was an explosion in the city, and Jax could already guess what kind of exaggerated headlines the evening news and tomorrow's newspaper should use, and he laughed at the incompetence of the special department by the way. The Lord of Reincarnation. Author, Wen Xiaogong. Chapter 279. My head hurts. Yurui woke up and found herself lying on a big soft bed. Her head was a little dizzy, and what she saw in her eyes were some ambiguous lights, and a figure standing by the window looking into the distance. This seems to be a high-end love hotel? How am I here? Fortunately, Yurui is a mysterious person. She doesn't scream like a girl, she just looks around and herself quickly. He was relieved to find that the clothes were in good condition. Immediately, she recalled it again. She thought of the mysterious party, and her head began to find a way of thinking, connecting the things that happened one by one. I saw the gentleman who saved me, and then I was attacked by ghouls. No, gluttony has the ability to create hallucinations. Maybe everything I see is just an illusion. My current situation is still very dangerous. You're awake. Fang Xian turned around and looked at Yurui. It's good to wake up. There should be a security officer to investigate later. Is there any problem with your identity? No. Yurui pulled the quilt to cover her chest, hesitated and said, "Thank you for saving me again, sir. I am Yurui from the Nig's family, and I will repay you." Now, she was probably sure it wasn't a hallucination. "My name is Lai Raphael." Fang Xian unceremoniously used the fake identity he had just obtained. "Saving you is just a matter of effort, you are welcome. But if you really want to thank me, give me the complete inheritance of the Warlock Tower, or relevant clues, to determine the channel to get it." Yurui choked there immediately. How could this kind of top-notch mystic knowledge be within the reach of a mere apprentice? Even if it is her family, it may not be able to have it. But the other party saved her. Twice. Yurui almost cried. She gritted her teeth, held back her tears silently, and thought carefully. Most of the Warlock Towers are in the hands of nobles with a long history, and it is indeed easier to obtain them in the Narnia's empire than in other places. I probably know a few. The family has this inheritance, but how could an ordinary outsider obtain such top-level mystical knowledge? Even if they are willing to sign the deed of sale, it depends on whether the other party is willing to ask for it. Then, I'm going to take a trip to the Narnia's empire, and you can be the tour guide. Fang Xian clapped his hands. At this time, there was a sudden violent slap on the door. "Magistrate, temporary inspection." "Okay, get up and get ready to deal with the sheriff. Remember that you are the prey I captured today. We just met." "You drank too much." Fang Xian lowered his voice and went to open the door. Outside the door, a security officer looked in, and when he saw Yurui, a look of surprise flashed across his face, and he immediately gave Fang Xian an envious look. Night. The night in Deland City looks a bit hazy tonight. A bright moon in the sky, blooming with lavender brilliance. In the city center, on the square in front of the security office, rows of sheriffs stood solemnly, with Jax, Reed, Tabor and other special agents in the front. At this time, their eyes were full of admiration and excitement, and they looked at a middle-aged man in a black uniform in front of him. This middle-aged man was tall, with blue eyes and a face as firm as granite. He also had a silver badge on his chest, which represented that he had received awards from the king. This is a Silver of Order level powerhouse, and also a high-ranking member of the special department Otis Genil. He looked at the full moon in the sky, and said to himself, "Purple moonlight, has the king's feast ceremony finally reached its peak? A gluttony died during the day, can't bear it anymore?" Click. Bang. Behind him, there is also a square iron cage wrapped with canvas, which seems to contain a beast, which is constantly hitting the fence, looking extremely violent. Otis calmly took off the glove on his right hand. Under the moonlight, his right hand actually reflected the light, and the traces of silver metal veins on it seemed to have completely merged with the flesh and blood. At this time, with the light movement of Otis' fingers, the canvas of the iron cage behind him was lifted, revealing the body of one of the gluttony. It has completely transformed into a ghoul form, with silver chains around its neck and limbs, and red eyes, full of madness and desire to attack. Moreover, it seems that the magic-like ability is restricted, and even ordinary people can look at it directly. The King's Feast, the researcher of the kingdom has already analyzed this ceremony, and this is only a simplified version at present. In the end, many gluttony in the third stage will sense each other's existence and start killing and devouring. Only the final victor has the qualification to open the door of silver. Otis continued to move his fingers, opened the steel cage, and released the gluttony. Click. Click. The silver chains on the opponent's limbs were entangled like snakes, and they were loosened one by one, allowing the gluttony to regain freedom. GG. It let out a strange cry, and was about to rush to the nearest living person. Be quiet. At this moment, Otis yelled dissatisfiedly, and the silver collar worn on the gluttony's neck shone brightly, completely suppressing its actions. And, a chain emerged from the air, connected to Otis' right hand. From a distance, it looks like he is leading a big dog. Next, I will completely suppress its intelligence, leaving only its instincts to hunt down the high-ranking ghouls in and around the city center. Otis gripped the chain tightly. The gluttony let out a roar, and rushed out like a sharp arrow. However, no matter how far it ran, the silver chain was still held by Otis, as if there was no limit to its length. Inside the Laurel Hotel. Speaking of which, this King's Feast ceremony is not perfect, there are too many places that can be used. After listening to Yirui's detailed narration, Fang Xian mused, why did the group of ghouls choose this place? After all, the Fourth Kingdom is still one of the three major powers in the mainland, and they should not have their brains eaten. Who knows? But, this group of cultists must have been influenced by some existence, it is indeed too crazy. Yirui, who dismissed the magistrate, smiled wryly. Boom. Just then, a gunshot sounded nearby. The purple moon represents the culmination of the ceremony. The special department has also started to act. She was not surprised to see the scene and muttered to herself. Then, let me take the opportunity to act too. You follow the plan and wait for me at the train station tomorrow morning. Fang Xian's figure slowly disappeared, and the chameleon blended with the surrounding colors like a chameleon. He just heard the news from Yirui that there are important members of the Miller family in the city. They are the two who presided over the acquisition of the Roland family before. The Lord of Reincarnation. Author, Wen Xiaogong. Chapter 280. Deland City. Somewhere in the slums. Crunch. Crunch. There was a toothache chewing sound, and a pool of black and red blood spread. In the vicinity of this apartment, there are no traces of living people, but the severed remains of ghouls. Obviously, this is a hidden stronghold of ghouls. However, under the illumination of the purple moonlight, all the ghouls fell into a state of madness and started the ritual of mutual eating. Up to now, there is only one gluttony left. Its body is thick, and it tends to become giant. It swallowed a piece of flesh and blood, turned its head suddenly, and looked in a certain direction. As a participant of the King's Feast, it sensed the arrival of another participant, and at a very fast speed. GG. It screamed strangely, and its brain, which had almost lost its reason, did not know how to avoid it at all, and rushed forward. Puff. The gluttony stomped on the ground with its thick hind legs, leaving a deep footprint and running fast. A desire and urgency for evolution drives it to continue to accelerate. Near. Closer. Turning around an intersection, it saw a similar running towards it with a collar around its neck. No. It's a trap. The last trace of reason awakened in its head, making it want to escape, but it was too late. Fire. Various guns and mysterious bullets fell on it, blasting blood holes one by one. Snapped. Even with the strong physique of the gluttony, after so many attacks, he turned into a corpse like a broken sack. Fall to the ground. Confirm that the target is dead. Jack stepped forward, confirmed the status of the gluttony, and waved back, clean the battlefield. Detectives Red and Tabor immediately stepped forward, opened the black body bag, and collected the remains of the gluttony. The tragedy in the apartment ahead needs to be resolved by the sheriffs. It's so easy, Reed sighed while tidying up, a mysterious person on the third step was killed so easily. That's because we have a Silver of Order leading the team, and he has formulated a perfect plan, otherwise, it would not shoot at us at all against an extraordinary ghoul of the quenched black iron level. Opportunity has long used illusion to play with us so that we can't distinguish between reality and illusion. Tabor lit a cigarette, took a puff leisurely, and exhaled a smoke ring in satisfaction. The opponent's speed is very difficult to hit, even if you hit a shot accidentally, it probably won't cause fatal injuries. This ghoul, obviously because of being in the ceremony, the brain is broken, so it is easy to fall into the trap and be set on fire by us. That's right, a transcendent of this level is also an absolute backbone in the mysterious world. Jax added, and immediately ordered, tonight's operation is not over yet, continue. Yes, sir. Red's face straightened, and he followed behind a large group of people, starting a new hunt. In the suburbs, an abandoned factory. Under the moonlight, a gluttony with a silver chain around its neck ran forward excitedly. Looks like another lair? Red's face was flushed, partly from the strenuous exercise, partly from excitement. Tonight's action made them like whack-a-mole, easily destroying the ghoul dens one by one. The accumulated meritorious service is even enough to apply to the superior to increase his mysterious level. Moreover, he has a very sense of justice. Killing this dark creature is an act in line with his philosophy and has gained great support from his heart. Come on. Reed held a mysterious firearm, his eyes were red, he kicked open the gate of the factory and rushed into it. The operation tonight was so smooth that the cautiousness he had been maintaining had disappeared. The next moment, his pupils shrank, and he saw the internal structure of the factory. In the unobstructed open space, there was only an iron cage, and inside it was a gluttony whose limbs had been cut off. Because the vitality of the extraordinary race hadn't died yet, it was constantly struggling. This is a trap. Red felt as if a string had snapped inside his head. He turned his head ferociously, wanting to shout something to his companion. But it's too late. A huge black flame suddenly emerged from the factory floor, engulfing Reed, the glutton as a bait, and the special department team in the rear. The last thing Reed saw was the face of his partner Tabor with a wry smile, and immediately fell into eternal darkness. The spirit body was pulled out, and sacrificed to an evil existence. Boom! A black flame emerged, engulfing the factory and its surroundings. It all happened so fast. The team of the special department suffered heavy casualties immediately, and the number of hundreds of people dropped by half at once. This is a trap. Jax was on the edge of the line and barely survived. In fact, he should have died a long time ago at this distance, and the only reason for his survival was that a light curtain emitting silver light descended from the sky, saving the remaining people. Otis Genil. This high-ranking member of the special department and the transcendent of Silver of Order had tried his best to strike, but, still couldn't save everyone. His granite-like face was moved, and his eyes were burning with anger. The soul extraction of the necromancer is combined with a large amount of explosives. Why does the necromancer appear in the ritual of the ghoul? I was just invited by a lord of gluttony to collect a wave of souls. Hoarse laughter came from the night, and the figure of an old man in black robe slowly emerged. His face was old, like a skull, and green ghost fires were burning in the deep-set eyes, which could make people have nightmares at night. A smile. Honorable Otis Genil. The Gourmet Association salutes you. Beside the old necromancer, another handsome young man came out, and greeted him very gracefully like a distinguished guest attending a dinner party. I hope you can become our precious dinner, then it will be my great honor and joy. It turns out that the ritual is the bait, and the real target is me. Otis flicked the 5 fingers of his right hand, and silver chains emerged in the void, intersecting horizontally and vertically, forming a giant net to protect himself. He is the Silver of Order on the 4th step, and his professional name is Silver Alchemist. This is a high-level occupation of the Tower of Alchemy, which can manipulate the power of a magical metal mithril. Mithril is a special metal produced by alchemy. It has excellent ductility and toughness, and can resist the erosion of certain mysterious forces. Therefore, it is an excellent material for making some special bullets. In the hands of the Silver Alchemist, they can exert even more terrifying effects. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lord of Reincarnation. Author, Wen Xiaogong. Chapter 281. Retreat. Take cover. With a roar, Jax led the special agents to escape from the battlefield of the 3 Silver of Order. The transcendent of the 4th step is already at the top of most mystics, and the mystery within themselves forms a circulation system, and the destructive power they can exert is extremely terrifying. Even in the secret realm, the mystery of the 1st and 2nd steps can be maintained, which is very terrifying. These transcendents of the first 3 steps, if they participate rashly, they will die. Only by leaving far away and protecting yourself can you think about how to support the chief. But Jax didn't have time to think about it. GG, GG. In the surrounding darkness, accompanied by strange screams, pairs of scarlet eyes emerged, staring at the surviving agent. It's a large group of ghouls. Eaters account for the majority of them. Ghouls are occasionally seen, and there are sporadic 3rd-level gluttony. Bang bang. The survivor agents immediately fired one after another, fighting fiercely with the ghouls summoned or converted by the Lord. Above the factory that has been turned into ruins. Otis has no time to pay attention to the situation of his subordinates. After all, his state is more dangerous. Besieged by a necromancer and a gluttony lord. After the gluttonous lord summoned ghouls to besiege the special investigators, he immediately began to grow into a giant, becoming as big as a mammoth, but his agility remained the same. The skeleton-like old necromancer held a black scepter in his hand, and just staring at Otis made the opponent's soul tremble, feeling the unparalleled danger. Silver creation. Otis didn't hesitate, and immediately used the core ability of the Silver Alchemist. A layer of silver liquid seeped out from under his skin, forming a set of silver armor. At the same time, more silver liquid gathered, and suddenly a silver fist protruded from the ground, hitting the giant ghoul hard. On the giant mouth that bites. A silver alchemy golem with a height of 3 or 4 stories roared and struggled out of the ground, and rushed towards the giant ghoul. Creation of silver can use mithril to make all kinds of temporary magical items, such as the previous chains, armor for body protection, and even huge golems. The silver golem wrestled with the giant ghoul, and both fell to the ground like a small earthquake. After finishing all this, Otis did not relax, but lowered his head, looking at the mithril armor protecting him. At the center of his chest, some dense black spots had appeared at some point, like small bugs, constantly climbing and multiplying. In a short while, it spread from the size of a fingernail to the size of an egg. Your Excellency Otis Genil, are you overconfident? The old necromancer who hadn't done anything all this time said with a strange smile, do you think you can stop us with your own strength? That kind of black spots, no doubt a cursed ability. In addition to the impressive abilities of manipulating corpses and spreading plagues, the necromancer can also learn the skills of curses. If it wasn't for that layer of mithril armor, Otis Genil would have been a dead man. Otis raised his head with a calm expression, I never thought of fighting 2 against 1, I just wanted to hold you back. As soon as the words fell, countless silver chains suddenly appeared in the void. They trapped the runaway giant ghoul, and also trapped the old necromancer with a startled face. Although Mithril possesses a certain forbidden demon attribute, binding two silver of order at the same time can only last for a few seconds or less. However, Otis just wanted to buy this little time. Whoosh! There was a sword cry in the air suddenly. A figure turned into a silver-white streamer, and suddenly rushed into the battlefield. The silver-white cross-sword in his hand danced like a whirlwind, and the blade turned into a storm, sweeping the necromancer into it. Silver Swordsman. Sword Blade Storm. This is the foreign aid and insurance that the Special Department has found long ago. The Guardian who protects the two direct descendants of the Miller family has made a move. Silver Swordsman is a special advancement of the Warrior Tower. It completely abandons the Warrior's armor ability and powerful defense, and replaces it with unparalleled breakthrough ability and attack power. Even though the target was also a silver of order, he was still shredded by the blade storm. The storm gradually dissipated, and the figure of the Silver Swordsman appeared. Thin figure, gray hair, wearing an ordinary cloth shirt, just like the old man you can see everywhere on the roadside. Except for the silver cross sword in his hand, there is nothing like a strong man. But it was such an ordinary old man who killed that necromancer with a single strike. Thank you for your shot. The Special Division will keep in mind the contribution of the Miller family. Otis said loudly, standing on the shoulder of the mithril golem, looking at the gluttonous lord who had broken free from the chains. You have two choices, one is to die immediately, and the other is to go to a special prison. GG. The gigantic ghoul suddenly let out a mocking laugh. Otis, do you really think you've won? Otis' complexion changed, and he suddenly looked at his chest. The black spot had become the size of a fist. If the source of the curse is eliminated, even if the curse cannot be lifted immediately, at least it will not deteriorate so quickly. So there is only one possibility. That necromancer is not dead. Replacement puppet. Or flesh golem. Soul transfer? Otis quickly thought about the possibilities, his expression changed, and he spit out a mouthful of black blood. It seems that the plan here is also very successful. Maybe it can really kill you and inflict heavy damage on the Special Department. The Lord of Gluttony laughed wildly. The plan here? Otis looked at the Lord of Gluttony, and his expression changed. Let me find out that something is wrong with the ceremony. Seeking foreign aid is also part of your conspiracy? Do you still have a goal? Yeah, unfortunately, it's too late. The sullen voice of the necromancer made the expression of the old silver swordsman suddenly change, and he looked towards the direction of the city. That's where the two direct descendants of the Miller family are located. There is a feeling of fright. Is there a high-level extraordinary person to protect? Fang Xian looked at the manor not far away, stopped rationally, and stroked his forehead. Danger premonition. The danger has been warned, and it would be a fool to bump into it. Although in the secret realm, he can kill Bian like a chicken, and he can even fight against Golden King, but Fang Xian knows that the opponent is terrible in the real world. The current self is likely to be no match for him. The Lord of Reincarnation. Author, Wen Xiaogong. Chapter 282. Fang Xian was very patient, and after sensing the danger, he slowly backed away a certain distance. With the cover of night and the protection of invisible skin, no one noticed him approaching at all. The night is still long, and he has enough patience to wait. It's not knowing anything, it's just a habit. After all, with so much going on tonight and a massive manhunt for ghouls unfolding, there could be surprises. No matter what the accident is, if it affects this place, it is his chance. If not, it's just wasting one night in vain. Fang Xian, who has reincarnated in many worlds, feels that he has this patience. In fact, he didn't have to wait long. The sound of explosions from the outskirts could be heard even near the manor. It was obvious that the operations of the special department were not smooth, and they encountered fierce resistance, and they might have fallen into a trap. At this moment, Fang Xian's danger premonition suddenly warned, a creepy feeling spread all over his body, and every hair on his back stood on end. He suddenly raised his head and looked in another direction. In the night, there is a group of shadow deeper than the night, moving fast. Along the way, the original gas lamps exploded and extinguished one by one. The stray cats and dogs were accidentally involved and immediately fell to the ground and died without even screaming. Wherever the shadow passed by, the building also began to be old, weathered, full of cracks and stench, as if it had experienced the scouring of a long time in an instant. There are enemies, the target is the millers in the manor. Fang Xian looked at Shadow, surprised in his heart. The source of my sense of danger is not the manor, but after entering, may I be swept in by this coming blow? The Miller family is a powerful marquis, a well-known noble in the kingdom, with a profound background. It should be able to resist, right? Thinking about it in his mind, Fang Xian looked at the manor with some expectation. I saw that group of shadow easily invaded the manor. The entire manor seemed to be covered with a layer of historical dust, and it began to decay and weather quickly. It seemed that there was not much resistance inside the manor. It's the decayer, damn it! Dick Miller, clutching a document, hurried to flee. But when he came to the end of the corridor, he found that the thick darkness was like a wall, completely blocking his way. Master Guardian was invited away by the special department. I must insist, it only takes 10 minutes, no. 5 minutes, he will definitely notice something is wrong and return to the manor. Dick sweated on his brow. As a member of Dreamland, he is more aware of the horror of the decayers in the dark world. The more you know, the more desperate you are at this time. Master Dick, I feel very wrong. A maid ran over anxiously. This beautiful maid with a sweet face and a melodious voice, at this time, her voice is becoming extremely vicissitudes, and wrinkles and goosebumps are constantly appearing on her body. After accumulating to a certain limit, she fell to the ground and turned into a dead bone. Help me, I'm in so much pain. Another blood man ran out of the room, revealing bright red muscle texture, which seemed to have been completely peeled off. Dick could only use his intuition to recognize that this was his personal servant. Master, help me. The blood man struggled and stretched out his bloody palm to Dick. Sorry, you are dead, and your body has become a monster. May your soul rest in peace. Dick silently apologized, looking at a black star-like pendant in his hand. Boom. A fireball exploded on the blood man and exploded violently. By the time the explosion was over, the blood man had disappeared. After all, Dick is also an extraordinary person, and he can resist this kind of aging and monster curse to a certain extent, otherwise he would have died long ago. Where's Anthony? He thought of another companion. His expression suddenly changed, and he suddenly came to a room and knocked on the door. Anthony. Anthony. Dick's voice stopped abruptly. His movements suddenly became stiff, like a sculpture. This was because he suddenly realized that Anthony was also an elite superhuman cultivated by his family. If he encounters a little trouble like before, he will definitely be able to solve it by himself. But now, he can't solve the mystery. Can he do it himself? When Dick thought of this, his legs felt uncontrollable and wanted to turn around and run away. Snapped. But at this moment, the door of the bedroom opened with a bang. There was no bloody scene inside. Anthony sat calmly at the desk, facing the direction of the main entrance, with a weird smile on his face. Anthony. Dick's heart sank, and he felt that this Anthony was no longer the Anthony he knew. In the mysterious world, such things are not too rare. Dick, I just saw the truth of the world. Anthony said in a calm tone, one day the world will fall, and death is the destination of everything. Only by actively decaying can it last forever. Cold sweat broke out on Dick's forehead, and he held up the document he was holding. Your Excellency, you want this, I'll give it to you. Please let us go. Facing the irresistible mystic, resistance will only increase the pain of death, and compromise may still have a way to survive. Dick put the file on the ground, stepped back slowly, and carefully observed his surroundings. Suddenly, a calm voice sounded. Very smart, unfortunately, this is not my goal. The transfer of the equity certificate requires notarization by a notary office and the voluntary consent of both parties. After Baron André's transaction, strictly speaking, even Dick has no right to sell the property, because he cannot represent the Miller family. Accompanied by the voice of the decayed, Andy was surprised to find that black fluff had grown on the back of his hand. Even hearing the voice of the other party may cause the mysterious person to fall. What I want is what's in your head. Now, I already know. A gold mine from the New World doesn't attract me at all, but I have to admit, Ferdinand is a genius and lucky guy. What he found was not a gold mine, but a secret place. And, the secret's buried in the secret territory. You Miller family, and those who worship the King of Ghouls, have been secretly looking for it. That involves the great existence above the top of the tower. The corruptor's voice remained calm, but every word pierced Dick's head like a steel needle. Blood flowed from his 7 orifices, and he used his last rationality to press down on the black star pendant on his wrist. Immediately, Dick's figure disappeared in the corridor. Only the voice of the rotten man sounded, without a trace of emotion. Transportation magical items. Even if it is only a one-off, it is very precious. It is worthy of the Marquis family, but, your alienation is irreversible.